Have you ever had a story that's just so juicy you just can't help but share it with everyone? Well, that's what I'm here to tell you today, because just last week, my 2014 Honda Accord took a trip to the one and only trusted Honda dealership that has looked after this thing since almost 2 years ago when I first bought it. Except what was supposed to be a $150 to maybe $200 service bill for an oil change, tire rotation, and alignment ended up turning into an almost $2,000 nightmare by the end of the day. Now, I know what you guys are typing out already. You should have never taken your car to a dealership because you know they're going to charge you X amount of dollars more for this, that, and the other. You should have taken it to Bob on the corner, or you should have done the work yourself. And guys, I totally understand where you're coming from. I've been in that situation before, but considering that this particular Honda has been religiously dealership serviced since it was brand new, I felt it was only fair to continue that trend during the time that it's in my care, which I hope is a lot longer than I've had it already. But as I said before, I simply went into this Honda dealer expecting to get 3 services done and to be in and out in perhaps a couple of hours or so. And that's exactly what happened. They did the oil change, they did the tire rotation, and they did the alignment. But what I didn't realize is that, number one, my tires were almost 5 years old. And if anybody knows a thing or two about tires, well, they only last about 5 or 6 years before you ultimately need to replace them. This was not communicated to me at the dealership, and before I continue any further, I am not here to put this particular dealership's name on blast. They already know who they are, and I am not going to mention anything further. But it would have been nice to know that I needed to replace my tires, because then I could have made another trip up to my local discount tire and had everything sorted out and saved myself this entire headache. But as I said, it was not communicated to me, so I left driving away on almost 5-year-old tires that had already been damaged quite a bit by the alignment not being correct. So I get the car back, I drive it away, and I'm headed down one of the worst interstates in the entire world, Interstate 45, that literally runs all the way from Dallas down here to Houston. I get down Interstate 45 and I make the ubiquitous left turn onto what most Houstonians know as Beltway 8, which is just a giant toll road that goes all the way around the Houston metro area. And I'm thinking I'm home free. I'm about halfway home. I can see the exit for George Bush Intercontinental Airport, which tells me I'm pretty close to my exit. And all of a sudden, there is the loudest bang that I've ever heard in my life. And the car immediately drops down to the ground and starts making the loudest grinding, metal crunching noise that I have heard. My first thought was that I'd lost a wheel, but I quickly realized it was even worse than that. Okay, it wasn't exactly as bad as a wheel coming off, but it might as well have, because what had actually happened was my left front Michelin Cross Climate 2 had separated right at the meeting point where the tread meets the sidewall. And this had all happened at 75 miles an hour while I was trying to pass another vehicle. Now, thankfully, I was in the left-hand lane, so I already had a pretty quick exit off onto the shoulder. The only problem was I had other cars trying to dodge me at almost 80 miles an hour or more, considering how Houstonians like to drive. And what made it the most stressful part of it all was that the particular shoulder that I had exited off onto was one of the narrowest margins I've ever been on or been off the road on in my life. You'd think maybe I would have had a patch of grass or something to pull off on. These concrete barriers were so contorted out of alignment due to the various accidents that happened here in Houston. Well, basically I stopped at where it pointed out like this, and the side of the road is here. So I'm watching cars come screaming past me, knowing that at any moment, a distracted driver, a drunk driver, someone texting, something could have smashed into the back of my car and could have sent me and my automobile, and potentially everything else, flying off down the interstate. That was my biggest fear, so therefore I'm suffering the biggest anxiety attack ever. So what do? I call the Houston Police Department and tell them I'm stranded on the side of the road with a massive blowout, and they then said, okay, we'll send someone out, after transferring me through an infinite amount of phone lines. And what ended up happening was there was a Houston police officer nearby who shall remain nameless. They pulled off to the side, deemed my car a traffic hazard, and therefore called a local flatbed to get my car off the side of the road. I thought, no problem. If I have to pay for anything, and maybe be a $100 tow, you know, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, depends on who it is. Well, because my car needed more than just a tow up to the next exit, that then set me back $220 to get my car up to the local Discount Tire right here just south of Kingwood in a little town of Humble. Now, this is where things get fun. I go inside expecting the usual big sales pitch, just like every other business is trying to make a dime, except that's not actually what happened. What actually happened is I ran into a gentleman named Nathan, and Nathan is what I would consider to be the saint of Discount Tires out of all of their locations that I've been to. Specifically, if you're wondering which one, in case you want to go see Mr. Nathan, check out the one right here on Highway 59 North in Humble, Texas. I promise you, if you run into him, he has saved my butt big time, not only financially, but in terms of time and everything else. Trust me, when I say that this was the best experience at any tire shop I've ever had, I truly, truly mean it. And no, they are not paying me to say that. But anyways, Mr. Nathan sees me walk in the door, drenched in sweat, and I start explaining my problem. He was very kind, he was very compassionate. He walked out to my car, took the tire size, then explained to me again that my tires had been dry rotted, and also told me in the same process that some of my wheel nuts had not been torqued down after my service at the Honda dealership. That was another red flag for me. But then he proceeds to take me inside, and then I'm expecting this big sales pitch about, oh, you should do this, that, and the other. But he just asked me a couple of questions. He asked me, did I want Michelins on my car again? I said, well, I don't really want Michelin Cross Climate 2s. I didn't really like the performance they gave. They were good for what they were, but they were a little too noisy on the road. They just weren't for me. And he said, well, do you want to go cheaper? Do you want something that's just to get you back on the road? And I said, no, I want something that I know is going to last me a while. And he said, well, I recommend going with Michelin tires again, except I recommend these. And these are 215/55 series Michelin Defender 2 all-season tires. Full set, just over $1,200. That was perfect for what my budget would allow. I did not want to go spending $2,000 on getting me, a set of Pilot Sports or something like that, which I don't even know if they make them in this particular size. But nonetheless, he recommended me the right tire at the right time and gave me one hell of a deal. And on top of that, for what I would say is not a whole lot of extra money, they took one of the best tires off of my old set and gave me a full-size spare as a replacement for the donut that also ended up happening to be flat at the time I needed it the most. So in the end, I spent about $200 worth of servicing at a Honda store. I spent $220 on towing this car to the Discount Tire, and then I spent $1,300 on a new set of tires. So you add all that up, I'm almost $1,700 out of pocket. And it all started just because I wanted an oil change, a tire rotation, and an alignment. Good grief. Now, if you followed the story this far, I'm sure you're probably thinking he has got to be absolutely livid with that Honda dealership, and he would never dream of taking his car back to that same place, let alone recommending them to anyone else. The fact of the matter is, I'm actually not mad at them because we're all human, we all make mistakes, and in the end, shit happens. I'm just gonna flat out say it. These things are not designed to last forever, nor are tires, nor are any other parts of a machine in general. So I absolutely get it. But the fact is, after this whole thing transpired, I got in contact with the dealership again, told them what happened, and they ended up making it right. Now, I'm not going to explain all of that because that's technically and legally between me and them. But let's just say they have earned my respect in spades. But what also would earn my respect, at least a little bit more, is if you guys like what you see, please consider subscribing because trust me, I love talking about all kinds of random shenanigans like this. And also, if you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. That's always a nice positive thing to see as well. But in the end, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video and I will see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.